Heidi ho, everyone. Welcome to Knowledge and Nonsense. My name is Sharon Combs, and today we are going to talk about the myth of Superwoman. This is Women's Month. We're excited about it being Women's Month. Please celebrate someone, do something kind for someone, not for a wealth of fame or reward, but just because it's a good thing to do. We have a panel today where we're just going to talk about the myth, where it originated from, what are some of the benefits of the myth, what are some of the challenges, what are even some of the detriments of this myth of Superwoman. And so if you have questions, you know what to do. You can put them in the chat box, share the video, or you can text them to 214-717-5921. Okay, give us about 20 seconds, and we'll be right back and get it started. And we're back. Hi, Karen. Hi, Karen and Rebecca.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Oh, good. So let's get started right off the bat. When I say Superwoman, Rebecca, what do you think?
I think somebody that can handle it all. Somebody that can go from working full time, handling 7 different things going on in their life, and still have energy to keep moving.
Keep moving. All right, Karen, what do you think when you hear the myth of Superwoman? The myth. Now, Rebecca told us Superwoman. You get the myth. Okay, Karen, can you hear us? I don't think Karen can hear us. Okay. All right. Well, we'll just go on. So, Rebecca, when you Tiny.
Yeah.
Everyone, this is Tiny is joining us today.
Hi.
Tiny, when you hear Superwoman, what do you think before the myth?
I actually have to piggyback with Rebecca. I say someone who can do it all. Someone who tries to do it all, and for the most part succeeds at doing it all.
All right.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the myth of Superwoman. When I say what is the myth of Superwoman, Tiny, now I give it back to you since you led in with tries to do it all.
So for me, Sharon, I would say, panel Sharon, I would say the myth is has to do it all. Has to wear all these hats and has to succeed at doing it, and has to present the facade that she's doing it without stress, without hardship, that she handles it all and does it well.
Rebecca.
Same thing. I would just say that if there's that perception that this woman doesn't need time for herself, that she doesn't have to take the time to de-stress and to focus on herself because she's too focused accomplishing other goals, almost that she doesn't need the time for herself.
People tell me, like, we've heard you're such a workaholic. I'm like, I don't know what that means. I just say, okay, but I don't know what it means. It's like you have to get it done. To me, that's the myth, is that you do have to get it done, and there are expectations externally. And I'm a woman too. Sometimes even there's like an unspoken, like, if it doesn't, is it because I'm a woman? You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm tired, is it because it's too much for me because I'm a woman? Right. And not just because, no, I'm tired because we worked all night long and no one has gone to sleep yet, you know? So I don't know. And I don't know, again, like how much of that will be internal and how much of that is really an unspoken expectation in corporate or in the working world. All right, Karen, can you hear us? All right, so we're gonna have Karen come out and come back in so she can hear us. And then let's keep going. I'm coming back to Rebecca and Tiny. So when we had this topic come up about Superwoman, This is Women's Month. What made you guys go ahead and say, yeah, we'll do it. We'll join.
I think that for me anyway, it's one of those things that there's so much pressure. Like when I think about my own workplace and my superiors, I'm like, okay, there's almost like a social norm that the women that have these higher up positions either have attitudes, they have to be a certain way, or their personalities are have to be a certain type in order for them to succeed. And I feel that for me, a big problem with these social norms and these social expectations is that it can really affect us negatively, where we have so much pressure on us to meet those social expectations and those social norms that it really can make us feel it's almost like an aspect of self-harm in a way. Now I can't hear you.
Keep going. We like it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. So for me, I have a big focus on mental health in our sterile processing community right now. With everything that's going on in the world, but even before before everything started a couple of years ago, it's one of those things that within sterile processing, we have to make sure our mental health is on point. Not just in our career, but just as humans as a whole, we have to make sure that our heads are right in order for us to live our best lives. So when I think of like the myth of the superwoman, it dug deep with me a bit, because I'm thinking of my superiors. Like I was saying, I don't want to look up to them like, oh, this woman's got to be tough. She's real tough. She's strong. She's independent, and she doesn't really care about anybody else. And it's like, okay, why is there this social, I guess, personification that a woman has to be cutthroat and tough and not have feelings to be in that kind of power position or that type of leadership role?
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Tiny.
Today I think what the first part of that, what made me say yes, actually there's some of that as busy of the schedule that I feel like that I keep, was the pressure of, Tiny, you can make time for this. You can make time to come on and and share your thoughts and views. You can do it. And so part of that, even maybe living up to the myth of, okay, I can add this in. So I think that's what made me say yes today for Superwoman.
All right, let's see if we can get Karen. Can you hear us?
Now she's muted.
Oh wait, no, she's muted on my end. Yeah. So can you hear us, Karen?
I can hear you now.
Okay, yay! Oh, we can see you.
I haven't heard anything that anybody has said until now.
You can't. Okay, but now you can, right?
I can now.
All right, awesome. We were just saying, like, with this show. Well, let's jump into a question just for you, Karen.
Okay.
Karen, has there ever been a time when you felt like you had to be Superwoman?
Actually, I mean, looking back to my early parenting days, I remember feeling like in order to be a good parent or do good at what I was doing, caregiving, I had to do it all. And I don't think anybody told me I had to, but just I had that inner thinking in myself that in order for me to be good at anything I did, I had to get involved with everything, no matter how hard it was, how I felt about it, that's what I had to do to be good.
Yeah. Do you guys think that is like a common sentiment among women? Like when definitely, I would say under 30, under 35, like that they have to check all these boxes, or they're, I don't want to say less than, but like you almost feel like you're less than, or like you're not as good, whatever the noun is.
I think so.
Okay.
I think
Go ahead,
so.
Karen.
I think I was talking to Rebecca earlier. I think now looking back at myself years ago and the knowledge, I mean, me as a 61-year-old woman now, I think back, I wish I had the knowledge then that I have now, as far as, looking at things in a different way and taking care of myself, knowing that I don't have to do it all, just having a different attitude about things. As you grow older, you have more wisdom, a different perspective on life, I guess.
Now we're not going to say anyone's age on here.
Okay.
Rebecca, how about you? Do you I mean, because you're a professional, you're well versed in your profession, you understand the technical, the EQ and all of that in your profession, you know. Do you still sometimes feel that unspoken pressure to check all boxes?
Oh yeah. And like
Come
I have
on
a
with
very
it. Come on with it. Yes.
I have a very supportive work family. I love where I work. I'm very happy with that. But I think because we're so pressured to just do everything that I feel like it's hard to ask for help. And I feel like if there's too much on my plate, sometimes it's more difficult to say, I can't do this or say no to something, because there's that thought of like, well, what if they think lesser of me? Are they going to think that I can't complete my job? And then I know a lot of us start to compare ourselves to other people who can seemingly outright do it all. So
But
I think
in your eyes, you may think that, but maybe they really aren't.
right. I think that it's interesting that there's a large group of I think we're all split. A lot of people compare themselves to others, and a large chunk of people also don't think that way. They're able to oversee that and keep it moving. It is something that, you know, it's a skill that we have to learn to not do. It's really hard to get out of your own way. But I think for me, it is hard to say no, because my inner thought there goes to, well, I'm not fulfilling my job, you know, my expectations here.
Yeah.
But
No, I love it. Great response. Both of you, great response. Okay, for a show of hands, who's had a problem saying no? Who's had a hard time saying no? Okay. Let's just be transparent on that, because it is a skill set. It is a skill set. In some of the trainings I get to do, I will often have people, even sometimes random in the audience when I'm speaking, I'll say, tell me no. And immediately their body language, the voice frequency, the pitch, the tone, the volume, everything kind of just curls inward. Because even though it's an exercise, it's hard. Like just saying no, you can see them fighting off rejection or whatever else is coming. And it's just heartbreaking to me. But I understand. And that's why I practice. I practice saying no without my voice changing pitch, without my face having to reinforce my no. I practice saying no, because no is just no. The same way yes is yes. We never worry about the other person when we're saying yes. We worry about us.
right.
But it's just a no, or it's like a response. And it doesn't, like when you say no, it's not who you are. It's just your answer. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes when people say no, they feel all of a sudden it's like, this no means this about me.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good employee. I'm not a good mom. I should be able to just do whatever. And so that's what we're talking about, the myth of Superwoman here in Women's Month. Tiny, you have something you want to share before?
It's I think that's interesting. I think it's so true. I recently had so it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago, the first lady at the gym where I was working, Barbara. You may remember her, Karen, but she was just super fit. She had like 5 or 6 kids. You know, I mean, she just seemed so calm and perfect all the time. But she said to me, she wanted to give me a book, and it was called The Best Yes. And why do you want to give me this book? And at the time, I was teaching like 20 classes because I couldn't say no. No, I mean, like literally teaching 20 classes every day. I was there, or somebody needed help, and I wouldn't say no because I'm trying to be this helpful person, and I don't want people to look at me in this way and that way. And that has been the case for so long. So there was Barbara that first started saying, Time, you've got to get to this place where you can say no so that you can give your best yes. And then more recently, my daughter just said to me, "Mom, no is a complete sentence." You
Right.
know, as she sees me take on these things that, you know, because again, all these things I don't want people
Yeah.
to perceive me being,
Mhm.
all these negative things,
Mhm.
even though it turns for on me. It eats me, or it wears me down, or whatever. And so it goes on to perpetuate the myth of Tani the Superwoman. Yeah.
And it's just so ingrained in you that you don't even realize what you're doing or
Yeah.
how
Yes.
much. Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I can't remember if somebody told me this or if I read this in a book, but something that I try to remember in, in hard situations or whatever, in these kind of situations is tell myself, don't say yes when you mean no.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
how many times have we said yes when inside we really mean no and we really don't want to do it, but we say yes. So I try to remember that too.
Do you
Doesn't always work.
do you guys think that subconsciously our brains have been trained not to think about how other people, or let me rephrase that. Do you guys think our brains have been trained subconsciously to only worry about how we're going to feel if we say no, and not, or, and maybe overthink how that person may feel if we say no to them? Like, in conjunction with this whole, like, the Superwoman personification.
I do. I do. Hold that thought. We're going to answer that. Guys, think about your answer. We're going to take 60 seconds just to say, hey, we want to appreciate our sponsors. When we come back, we're definitely going to answer that because it speaks to where this came from. But yes, don't lose that question and don't lose your answers. Karen and Tiny, don't lose your answers. We'll be right back.
Those in the know SIPS Consults. SIPS Consults is hiring. Confident, competent, and consistent. Starting as a consultant and a volunteer, SIPS has grown into a dynamic group of stellar sterile processing professionals, offering excellent benefits, 401k, and consultant in training program. We are hiring certified technicians, leads, supervisors, interim managers, educators, coordinators. Apply at recruiting@sipsconsults.com or dial 1-866-615-7977.
All right, and we're back. Guys, you are watching Knowledge or Nonsense. Please share this video. It's Women's Month. We want to celebrate women, and we have a lot of women heroes out there, but we have a lot of women heroes whose names you may not know. So let me introduce you to Rebecca Paplow, Karen Cleaver, and this is Tiny. Tiny Coburn is joining me here in studio, live in the studio, and we're talking about the myth of Superwoman. And before we went to the break, Rebecca, you'd asked the question, if I could sum it up, you're saying, like, do you think, like, sometimes the way our brains are trained, or we're trained, like ingrained in us or whatever, to consider other people when we're saying can you go over that question again? I may be butchering it.
Yeah, I think it can be looked at from both ways. So do you guys think, due to societal norms, that as women in career fields or in general, are we subconsciously trained to overthink how somebody's going to feel if we express our true feelings?
I see what you're saying.
I say yes. I say yes. And you said societal norms. And here's
Yes.
the thing, like, we are taught, Veronica says it's hard to say no because as women, we are nurturers and we feel like we have to do it all, have to complete the goal. We say sometimes, if I don't, who will? I guess it is the I don't, it's who will mindset. And
That's true.
Clinton is saying yes as well. So here's my thing with that, with societal norms. That's the thing, like, so much is changing now. Just because it's a norm doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's actual. Like, really, are all women nurturers? Or is that something we were taught? Really, did Christopher Columbus discover America? Or is that something we were taught? And so, and that's one of the questions we have, like, where did this expectation come from? If it's a myth or if it's an expectation, where did it come from? So do you guys think that it's what Rebecca is saying? I say yes, Rebecca.
Yes, I think so too. I feel like society tries to think that way. And it's not until we realize what we're doing that we have to retrain our brains and our personal selves to go about it differently.
Oh my God, girl, you hitting it right there, Karen. Because regardless of whether it's school, religion, family, zip code, our upbringing teaches us certain things. And some of those things are solid gold. And some of those things are solid fake gold. Like it's not
Right.
really authentic. Rebecca, you look like you and Tiny are about to say something. So you guys have to just jump in. This is an organic conversation on the myth of Superwoman and where we believe it came from.
Well, Rebecca, I don't. So honestly, I don't know that I feel like I'm trained to that we've been trained to think about other people's feelings. I don't know. I don't know for sure about that. I was trying to go back to my upbringing and think about where is the first time or when is the first time I started taking on this thought process or this mindset. And I don't know that anybody said anything to me that I had to do this or that. I think birth order, I think for me, were my birth order, where I fell amongst a lot of boys, that it's just something maybe I took as my own. I don't know that anybody put it in me. Intentionally, at least, that this is what you have to do. I felt like for myself, I want to be as great as the boys around me. So, and maybe it's a subconscious thing. Maybe it's something I missed. Maybe subconsciously, maybe my mom put something out there that I missed that I thought, and notice I said as the boys.
So Tony, do you feel like it's like competition, like you have to be better than your brothers,
maybe, yeah.
And I just want to jump in here. Is that because she's a girl, or is that because personality? Because I study personalities, and being a little familiar with Tiny's personality, just because she's been kind enough to, she's been a participant in one of our courses. That personality is a match type personality. There's an inner competitiveness, she
but being that personality, part of that would come from environment and upbringing. You don't think, right? Like who you become. So is that not even just about me, but the superwoman mentality for all of us? Then we don't all have the same personality, right? So how does that,
I'm just saying, like the keeping up. I don't know, the keeping up with the boys,
the competitive part.
Yeah, and this is what I love this about Knowledge and Nonsense. Y'all breathe out there. We're all right in here. One of the best things about Knowledge and Nonsense is we don't have to agree.
Yeah.
So often when people don't have the same perspective, again, it can be internalized or whatever. No, you don't have to agree here. Everyone just says they're like, I could be way left. I could be way off in my thing right now, what I'm saying. And so that's why I would go back to the point. But like, we don't have to agree. And on Knowledge and Nonsense, you don't have to agree. It's so good because you can have these in-depth discussions where someone is polar right and I can be polar left. But the parts, we can still hold these conversations and get to the nitty gritty. And so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure which way I feel on that. Rebecca, I just think it requires a lot.
Maybe there's no one way. Maybe it's just a little bit of everything.
There's not. It's not. It's a way. As my friend Jelena Simpson, my fellow consultant and training partner and friend. I love how when she does her trainings, y'all look her up on LinkedIn, she'll say, it's this a way. And she's very clear to be like, when people say, no, this is the way. No, it is a way. Because there is another way. Like there's more than one way. And so I love that.
And I think like how we're raised very differently. All of us are going to go through our own unique experiences, positive, negatives, traumas. Those can shape how we see the world and grow. And as we get older and mature, how we handle different situations.
That's so true.
I think too, as a not just as a woman, but as people, I think because like I said, when I do those trainings, I don't pick women over men. Like whoever I pick is who I pick, and sometimes it's a male, sometimes it's a female. I think even as a child, just learning how to, whether you're doing something right or wrong, your parents are smiling or not smiling, and so we go for the smile. There's something in us with the word no. We're already going for the smile because the smile means good, good job.
And
We
yeah,
have
we need
understanding.
that acceptance as a human
Yes,
being.
that
Yeah.
acceptance.
Mhm.
Yeah. So all right, let's so Veronica says it's hard to say no. Donnie says she thinks through subliminal messaging and images. We are taught to judge a non-flexible woman. Ooh.
Mm.
Oh, let's get into that, especially for women who work, anybody, but definitely women who work. Oh my God, I'm a single woman, and let me tell you, listen, people make plans for your time. They're like, you don't have no babies, you don't have a husband. Let me give you something to do with the other 16 hours of your day. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think we are taught? And this is really good for women too. I do think sometimes women are judged harder even by other women if you're not doing something like that woman is doing it. Do you guys think that as a female, this is Women's Month, and we're talking about the myth of Superwoman. Send your questions. You can text your questions to 214-717-5921. Do you believe that we are taught? And I don't mean like, hey, Johnny, sit down. If this woman doesn't say yes, you judge her. Do you mean like the subliminal messages, just the cultural influence teaches us to judge a non-flexible woman? Does that ring true or not true? What are your thoughts on that? Rebecca, I'll let you go.
My head goes to the thought of, if you are, I don't know, in your mid 20s to late 30s and you're single, no kids, there's a general connotation of, well, why don't you have a boyfriend? Why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? What's wrong with her?
What's wrong with you?
Right? So I feel like, I know I've gotten asked that a couple of times. It's like, why are you single? Who's your boyfriend? What are you doing? It's like, I'm just living my life. I'm learning. I'm educating myself. It's interesting that people feel like you need to explain your situation to them. Like, why do I need to explain to you?
Yes.
I can understand that on a few check boxes.
Yeah. But
girl.
why, as single women, independently living on your own, or even if you're living with your family, why is it something that there may be a stereotype associated with that, especially when in the workforce? Sometimes I don't think it's looked at positively. That's just where my head went with that.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of feels like, or it sounds like, Rebecca, it feels like we have to be attached to a male, and then if not, then it goes back to having to be this extra super if you're not attached, this extra super female being. And oh my God, there was one other part I was going to say. And then the non-flexible part seems like if you are super independent, not attached to a male, then you are images. You're this negative B. Usually the B word, it seems to be associated this
Or
Yes.
the C word.
yeah
Yes.
The C word
Yeah.
equally. Yeah.
yeah
It's not good.
yeah so
No.
you're automatically rigid, it not non-flexible, as the comment, the ladies comment, as you just said.
Or you're just hard to work with. Why are you so hard to work with?
Yeah.
Whereas with somebody else, sometimes it can be like, if it's a male, and again, I'm not a male, so I don't know. It could be like, he's a go-getter, he knows what he wants and he stands on it. He's a straight shooting guy. He's a straight shooter. But it may not be that all the time. And I think too, because just the same way women themselves, like Veronica has, we always want to please others. We don't want to disappoint. I don't want to displease others. But at this point in my life, I also don't have to please others at the point of displeasing myself. Because I've realized now that affects your health, your wealth, your peace. It affects so much. And so, as Cameron said earlier, you know, saying you have to, it's okay. Like, just know it's just a word. It's okay. And then Veronica also said, why do you have to explain anything to anyone? Because this is why it is the myth of Superwoman. That's why people feel okay asking you these questions. People, complete strangers, feel okay coming up to you asking these things because it just comes with maybe being a female. The people come and ask you about your life as if they have a way in.
So it becomes as the single. I know it's not just the topic, but as Rebecca said, kind of the single component seems to give people their unspoken permission to ask about your life and things like that.
Or I guess if you don't fit into that template of, you know, what you're supposed to do, then I'm just asking this as a question. Do people feel like, well, they have to make up for that in other ways in their lives, or be a different kind of a person to make up for what society is saying that they need to do?
I feel like, yes. Okay. So truthfully, it is a template. And based on your nurture, your perspective, when I was in university, based on your worldview, you could feel like that woman who is single and who doesn't have children, you could feel like, oh, poor her. Because that is truly, there are people who believe that's truly like the only purpose of a female is to bear children. Women too, okay? This Women's Month. This is knowledge and nonsense. We don't corner the market on women. There's 4 of us. There are many more than 4 women in the world, but it's 4 of us talking about it today. And what we've done is we have different generations, different zip codes, you know, so we're bringing difference together. Truly, people do feel, and they almost feel bad, and so they do what Karen said. They want to help you. They want to make it. We have to make it fit into the narrative we're most comfortable with. Sometimes, if you don't have children or you're not married, to some people that may make you less than a woman. What's really heartbreaking is there are women who feel like they're less than women.
Yeah,
they don't have that
fit into society standards.
And I think also that if you're working your regular 40-hour work week, right? It's time for you to go home, and maybe there's more stuff to do, right? You're a single woman. I don't have any responsibilities at home. You can stay late. You know, you can take on this extra task. Oh, I need a shift filled. You can come on in because you don't have a life outside. Well, you know what I'm saying?
You don't have a life that's valuable to them because of. Come on, okay. Look at Karen up. Karen taking notes and everything. Yeah, and they will get upset. There are bosses who will get upset with you. You know, like our coworkers will be like, "Well, you know, I have to go to Johnny's play."
Yeah.
Okay. When did I become responsible for Johnny's play?
Yeah.
So, but this is the real thing in this myth of Superwoman. And if there's any type of in my experience, and this isn't me right now in my life, but these are things I really had to like navigate and be like, man, you know, I'm screaming like, why? And it's like, you're not a team player. Johnny's not my kid. I don't even know Johnny's birthday, you know. And I love Johnny. I want the best for Johnny. I'm not mad at Johnny. But when did I become responsible for Johnny?
Right.
When did, you know, and it would be different if it was just one thing. But, you know, Johnny got events all year long.
But
Johnny got soccer.
On the flip side, though, when you have women that are putting themselves out there, they're heavily involved in either professional things going on, extracurricular activities with their family, kids, but looking from the outside in, these women have consistently busy schedules. They've got one thing after another. Next thing you know, they're all over social media and that kind of thing. But we don't question them because they're in the spotlight. You know, they are personifying the Superwoman myth. So we're not going to ask them to stay late.
I bless them. Go ahead and do it. That's what we're just talking about. That's why I'm calling it a myth. Let me be clear. I think women are the bomb.
Yes, the bomb.
I think women are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Because Tiny sent me something earlier this week when it was like, I'm a prayer warrior, I'm your physician when you're sick, I'm your lawyer, I'm a mediator between this, I'm that, I'm your coordinator. Even in still processing, people like, I've never coordinated a day in my life. I'm like, you got 4 kids. You've been coordinating for years. You know, I don't know about problem solving. Really? You don't know how to resolve conflict? You got 4? Yes, you do. Trust me, these are transferable skills. So I do think women are amazing because still they do come to work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of women come to work and do that, and then they go home and they still cook, clean, do all the things, set appointments for their family,
and continue to again push that that myth of Superwoman. So
that standard.
sometimes that standard.
Yeah.
Yes, we sometimes again it comes to at our own detriment. So then we do push it for society. We talked about earlier the images and things. We're putting it on Facebook. I was at A, B, C, D, and G. I think I missed E, but and F.
Well, that's what happens after you've been Superwoman for so long. You start missing some of those letters.
But yeah, so that is that continued pressure. Now pressure in new ways, in the ways digital pressure. What is everybody out here, even people I don't truly know, going to think of me if I don't live up to this super standard, you know?
Or if you stop moving, you know, like what if you take a break off social media, or you just kind of go silent for a while?
Yeah. So then the question is, what's wrong with you? What happened? How come you're off? Yeah.
You know something, a phrase that's really common, and it just came to me, and I think it also pushes some of that same thing is, I'm just living my best life. And even though my best life has me stressed.
Yeah.
And behind the closed doors, I'm screaming and pulling out my hair. I'm living my best life.
Are you? That's your best life? Yeah. You're right. Again, and this is why we're talking about the myth of Superwoman. Listen, guys, I know we're having a good time. We're hitting some points here. Trust, I know if you're watching, we've hit something that has either impacted you or resonated within you. The reason we're doing though is we want individuals to have freedom. First off, people are people. People are people. Karen is Karen. Sharon is Sharon. Tiny is Tiny. And Rebecca is Rebecca. And you almost do us and yourself a disservice if you expect Sharon to be Tiny or Tiny to be Sharon. You want to get to know people. Same thing with Mel. You know, Luane is Luane. Adam is Adam. John is John. You know, get to know individuals. I know there's some norms, but assumption really can create conflict. Whether you see the conflict, trust me, it can still be there. It can be a barrier. And so right now, socially, things are changing. And that means new mores and new norms. Now, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, women weren't working as much. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot more PTA action and bake sales and teas. But everyone is just, technology's changing, social norms are changing. So do you think there will be in the near future a way for us to be feminine without being considered helpless? A way for us to be strong without being that B or C word that we did not mention earlier? And a way for us to be respected in the workplace without having to have a male that will bring credibility to our professional endeavors. Do you guys see that anywhere in the near future? And when I say near future, I mean like within the next decade. Are we still about 30, 40 years out? Because, you know, people teach things generationally.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm just wondering, how can that happen? I mean, I would love to see that. How can we work towards that?
I think I think we're already starting to see changes, right? So more women are working than previous decades. More women in a traditional family are the breadwinners. More women are getting into leadership roles than ever before. So I think with that is coming the shifting of the attitude in the workplace where, okay, this woman that's in leadership, she's not a B word. She's not a C word. You know, she's got all these responsibilities, but there's more of a support system there. So when person A can't do something, this person now can say no. And it almost seems like those work conversations might start to shift. Like you aren't going to feel your support system in the workplace is going to back you and say, okay, I understand you're killing the game. We don't need you to, I can help shift this responsibility to somebody else. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. So I think like that type of workplace communication is also going to change. But I think like as women are, you know, we're breaking through these ceilings, more and more women are getting involved in leadership roles, whether it's in workplace or politics, that kind of thing too. The conversations are going to start shifting. You know, the myth of the superwoman, I think eventually is going to kind of break a little bit.
So if there's more awareness and just things brought up,
Yeah.
brought to the table, things will change.
Yeah, I think awareness and visibility.
Mhm.
One of the strongest ways to have ignorance remain intact is for the people who it deals with, for them to remain silent.
Mm.
You know, that's whether it's LGBT,
Mhm.
race, women, any marginalized group. Like when they remain silent, whatever someone else has spoken about them becomes still the blanket of definition because there's been nothing to challenge it. And I
Yeah.
don't mean you have to storm the gates. I'm just saying when you get to know someone, then that person becomes that person, and whatever stereotypes or definitions you may have had previous before you met that. Ignorance survives in the lack of knowledge. And I say as there's more women in the workplace and you work with more women, especially within healthcare, there's so many period everywhere. But the more you work with people, you understand, oh, this is people. And the work style, the work ethic, the work abilities and capabilities now are assigned to that person more than that gender or that whatever that demographic is now assigned to that person. And I think that, I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying. I believe that challenges whatever blanket statements have been in place before.
I also think that there is a more general acceptance and awareness of mental health, right? So let alone if you're a woman and you're suffering from depression or any type of mental health issues, you're looked at as this crazy bee, or that you're not going to be able to communicate properly, you're not going to be able to hold responsibilities, rather than a male with a similar mental issue going on. I think that in today's times, has been a bigger shift towards mental health and the focus on making sure that we're all you know, it's one of those things that you just used to be looked at as, okay, this person's crazy, send them to a psychiatric facility. Now it's about being proactive and not reactive.
Yeah, I agree what you say. Just the term self-care is
Right.
only really been out there for what, like 5 years or so. I mean, more so definitely with COVID, but I mean, we never really heard that term. I never heard that term years ago. So there is more of awareness. Self-care is okay. I mean,
it's tied to women a lot, you know.
I also think, you guys, I'm just thinking back with the whole potential, in the next decade, we'll continue to see change, because I think, as Karen mentioned, with COVID, with just the way the world is completely changing, we've got even a shift in roles. So roles, whether that become a little bit more shared with our male or female counterparts, or whatever, how our household structures are becoming set up, however that is, I think roles are shifting some. So, you know, you've got, like you said earlier, female breadwinners, you've got males sometime at home doing the jobs that the things that women have been doing. So as we continue to start merging roles and responsibilities, and then I think we will start seeing continue seeing maybe some shift in imagery of in corporate, in education, whatever fields, a shift where you're seeing more male teachers, more female, I don't know, sales folks, whatever, roles that that we may start seeing the opportunity to be feminine, and that where people perceive it as it's okay either way.
More females are in like STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, like yes, roles that were previously predominantly male.
Right.
But if we're honest, all roles were previously predominantly male outside of administrative assistants, secretaries.
Yeah.
I think nursing was acceptable to be a female and being nursing, but really anything from bus driver on, everything was predominantly male because that was the norm here in this culture in America, almost until like the 70s. I believe in the 70s it began to change a little bit. But again, everything ebbs and flows. I do think we'll see some changes. I don't know when. That's why I was asking the question. Veronica says, do you think as Superwoman, women can lose themselves? Once things are done, they may feel like, well, what to do next? Maybe like a void or something is missing. I definitely do, as someone, and even more so for individuals who have children. I think because when you are raising children, facts, just the data shows that when you are raising children, you really have to maximize your hours in the day because you have to handle their hours, your hours, family hours, hours that overlap, hours that are separate. And I think you get used to running at that pace.
Right. And you get used to not thinking about yourself either. I mean, you're the last person on that list. And it doesn't even come to mind that you need help, or you need, a break, or you need something.
Can we lean into this right quick? Can we just lean into this for the women who actually may be feeling this now, especially as your kids go off to college, empty nesters, job? Can we just lean in and just let them know? I mean, y'all weigh in, like on your heart. This is from the heart moment. Y'all, if this is you, listen, you ain't crazy. Let me say it in a nice way. You're not crazy. You're not off. Your pH balance isn't off. It's, you are having to you're finding yourself again.
Superwoman syndrome is a thing. So
it's a thing.
You can look it up. It's something where you're shifting all of your energy to meet the needs of everybody else but yourself consistently. You're not focusing on yourself. Superwoman syndrome is something that it is a mental health issue. So when you're constantly putting the needs of others ahead of you, it's going to come back eventually. You need to be able to balance it. If you are that type of woman that can continuously be active and also make the time for yourself, that's awesome. But is it truly realistic? I don't know. But Superwoman syndrome is a thing. Where we do get worn down. We shut down after a while when we're not taking care of ourselves because we're so worried about everybody else and satisfying the needs of everything else.
What are some ways that, for the women on this panel, what are some ways that either you have done or somebody you can reach out and touch has done to maybe fill those voids or navigate the voids? Because that void is just transition. So it's transition.
Here's the tough part. And Veronica, I'm with you. I'm coming towards these things too. Where for a moment, I don't even know that I've lost myself as much as a moment of feeling lost. Not that I lost, who I am, but just what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next with my time and my skill set of coordinating and making more hours out of the day than there are. But for me, I think putting back into ourselves, that may be gym time, that may be spa time, that may be, I'm reading again, which is something I've, recently picked up. Like I'm getting in books again, I'm coloring. I am doing things that help me calm my mind and chill as I step out of Superwoman or try to step out of it and not lose myself there. So
yeah, Tawny, that's true. All those things you said are so true. I mean, I can remember when my kids, graduated and went off to college, and And here I wasn't, being the chauffeur, running them around, doing all those things. And then I quickly jumped into caregiving for my mother-in-law who had Alzheimer's. She passed away years later. And then it's like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? And so you're right. I chose to. It took a while to kind of fit myself into things, but it's like the self-care kind of came up. Like, okay, now I can, I feel good when I do gym stuff. I feel good when I starting a new hobby that I wasn't able to have time for before. Read, so you do have to kind of transition, and it's not something that happens overnight at all.
No, it's very hard to allow yourself permission.
Right. And it helps to talk to other people. It helps to talk to other people.
Yes.
Do that.
It is incredibly difficult to give yourself the permission and the acceptance to take a step back and to allow yourself the time to take joy in small things. Like for me, when I'm overwhelmed and I feel like I've got a lot going on, like to me, it's just little things like, okay, aromatherapy. I put scents all over certain things. I'm like, all right, that brings me joy. Taking care of some house plants, like that brings me joy,
Yeah, so you may think at first those kind of things are silly, what's that going to mean? But the feeling that you get afterward, after doing those things, it's like, hey, yeah, that does work. It's
going to recharge you.
Right.
And sometimes when we think they're silly, it's because previously it was either that or take your kid to the doctor.
Right,
and
exactly.
So, and priority. And so we've gotten so used to deprioritizing the things that actually make us feel good or help us with our health. And we don't have time to go into it now, but I really truly feel like that lends to health concerns with people.
No kidding.
Hypertension, stress, unhealthy eating patterns, all of those are coping mechanisms because there is not self-care in place.
Right.
So like you said, we've only been talking about it for what? Just under a decade. We've been talking about self-care. So hopefully us including that in the day-to-day. And men, even though this is Women's Month and we're talking about the myth of Superwoman, as things are changing, she said roles are shifting. Not that you'll have that role. It'll be whatever is happy for you in your household. But be aware that if you're the person chauffeuring people around all day, implement self-care. It's important. Like you don't have to wait 18 years to do that. You just put it in. Put it in like another soccer match. Treat yourself with the same value. I don't know if that makes sense, but treat yourself with the same value as a soccer match. If you
it does make sense.
That's good info. But when you're living it, you don't realize that. When you're living it, you don't realize you have to
and I haven't lived it, so I can't weigh in on. I got to go with the experts on that.
Schedule time for yourself.
That's so important
to keep it. Okay, listen, I have a humor thing I wanted to share just because it was a humor thing for Women's Month. But first, Donnie says, I still want someone to open my doors and pump the gas. I work, but I want to be cared for. How do we separate the two? We're all going to have different answers. You guys answer as you want. I'm going to answer and be like, quit playing. Quit playing. If you want someone to open the door, then talk to that someone about opening the door and pumping the gas, because that's between you and that someone. That does not mean I'm a woman, so this is what I want. I trust. There's some men out there, they won't admit it, but there's some men out there, they don't want to pump the gas either. And there's some female that's pumping, or another man, I don't know. But
I look at it like it's good to have. I mean, she wants to. You need somebody to nurture your soul. That's part of nurturing your soul. Those kind of things, right?
Open doors and pumping gas.
I think society has put some of these things, these standards in place that this is what men do. Somebody takes out the trash, somebody cuts the yard for you, all these things that are these roles. And I actually think it's okay to want those, or maybe for Donnie, it's knowing that someone will do it. It's not that you can't do it. Just knowing, hey, they will do it may be a comfort for you and help you feel cared for. So I think to help separate those, knowing this person, whoever your someone is, will do it. They don't have to. Knowing that my person will do something for me, I may go cut the grass anyway.
Yeah. I don't think we should have expectations for each other as humans. I think that we just need to be well-mannered and give courtesy and help each other out when we need help. I don't think we should have expectations for anybody, however they identify within their gender roles. I think that if you want to help your neighbor out, go help your neighbor out. If you don't have to, but you can't expect somebody else to help you if you're not willing to help them.
Because that goes into the myth of Superman.
Correct.
This right here. And I feel like if we don't like the myth when it works against us, we can't use that same myth to work for us.
Just be a good human.
You give liberty to. And so, listen, if you want them to open the door and pump the gas, cool. If that's what you guys have between you. But if you're holding them to that standard because he's a male, then you can't be upset when he holds you to the standard like, hey, where's my dinner? Why is it not on the table? You know, I need my dinner on the table. I need this laundry washing. I need you in that room ready by the time I get finished watching this football game.
Right.
You know, and I do think that some people find comfort in the stereotypical gender roles, or like the way things used to be, and that's totally fine.
And I think it should be for them, like you said before. That's between you and your person.
Yeah,
those are my thoughts. But again, you know, hey,
it's about taking care of each other.
Well, it is what I know, because you want to be happy within your household with whoever you have, whoever you're walking this journey with.
Yeah,
it's you and that person on the journey.
Yes.
And if I'm with somebody and they want somebody to open doors and pump gas, and that's their love language. If I love them, I'm going to open the door and pump the gas. I'm going to fuss because it's cold. You got the same legs I have, but you know what? If that's I'm not going to fuss. I'm just saying, like, if that's their love language.
Not going to fuss because you're not going to say no.
If that's how they want to be cared for. Donnie said, Donnie has put something on here. It's what you said. It's knowing my partner is willing to support or fill in gaps as needed.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a valid request in any relationship.
There is something to say about, like, you know, a gender norm as far as like, okay, well, I need my oil change, so I'm expecting my boyfriend to go do it for me. I think it's empowering to be able to learn a skill that you can do with your own hands. So for me, it's one of those things. It's like, wow, I've leveled up in my own brain. I can fix my own car.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of people, you know, there's those things too.
I was in the Navy, and my job in the Navy had to do with welding and doing these type of inspections with zinc inspections and plumbing and stuff like that. And, you know, sometimes when you go in the military, they said hull technician, and I just heard technician. And I think I wasn't thinking hull, like the hull of a ship. And so I learned this whole skill set. Like, for what I'm like, I can make money. But when I tell you, I didn't like my nails being black all the time from welding, and I didn't like coughing up that stuff. You know, I don't like that. So I wouldn't want to do that. But I wouldn't think someone is less than a man if they didn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
there's just no one way fits all. There's no one way.
There's no one size fits all. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, it's 10:01. You guys have been great. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining us. I know some of you have been listening. And we just wanted to talk a little bit about the myth of Superwoman. We wanted to just share that, as Karen said, there is no one size fits all. Get to know that person. Definitely, we'll have Luane, and we'll allow him to do a show where it's just him and the fellas, and they can talk about, maybe, I don't know if fellas do that or don't do that, but that they can talk about, you know, some of the expectations and where those expectations came from. And I just want to say, hey, be free. For those of you who are in that gap, I really could, I could feel that in my heart. I don't know if you guys could feel it too. You're in that transition phase where it's like, well, what to do now? Because what you've been used to doing, it's okay. You're okay. Tap into the things that bring you pleasure. And if you don't know what brings you pleasure, you have an awesome time and a fun time finding out, okay, what do I like? Because you liked some things before you had the babies. So just, you know, find out what you like. It's not a rush. Take your time. If you like it, like it more. And if you don't, it's okay. But this has been Sharon Combs with Knowledge and Nonsense here with Karen Cleaver. Karen, thank you so much for being with us. Rebecca Paplow, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on the SPD education segment later this month for Women's Month. And Tiny Coburn, thank you for being with us as well. Y'all be safe and have a great day. Y'all want to say anything before we leave?
Thank you all for coming on, and this is an awesome conversation.
Yeah, it's been very interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Thanks. Till next time, stay super.
Stay super. Stay super. Yeah.
And stop comparing yourselves to others.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to do it.
Love yourself.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.